Welcome to the Go Big with Gib podcast, where we talk to professionals, business owners, and entrepreneurs about their big wins. What's up, guys? Today I've got a very special guest here with me, Catherine Bell. Catherine, how are you today?
I am amazing and super happy to be here with you.
Catherine, we're so happy to have you. I always love your energy. Tell us a little bit about you, who you are, where you're from, and give us a little background.
So, who I am, Catherine Bell. Originally, I'm from Canada. I have dual citizenship, so I'm American now. I always like to share my story because I want people to understand that no matter what their background is, there really is no excuse to create an extraordinary life, and it all ties in at the end. So I was actually born to a teenage mother in Northern Canada, and I was in and out of more homes than you can possibly count. Went to 13 different schools, but didn't learn to read till I was in the 8th grade. But I did get straight A's because I learned very quickly. In school, they didn't want you to think, they just wanted you to get the right answer, and I knew how to do that. And I raised my younger brothers, and then I got them adopted by their fathers. And then I was headed down a pretty horrible path, and when I was 16, I got myself adopted, and it literally saved my life. Deeply, deeply love my family that adopted me. And so fast forward, later on in life, I meet my husband. We ended up getting married in 2001. He was American, which is how I'm here. And we ended up moving to the United States because he had a dream. We took his dream and we turned it into a multi-million-dollar company. During that time, discovered we couldn't have kids, so we ended up finding out about what something's called foster adopt, and it's you can adopt children out of the foster care system. And so we adopted our twins out of the foster care system. Fast forward, we sold our company in 2008. Economy crashed. My husband got sick. Like, it was all this domino effect that happened, and we ended up losing everything in 2009. It was at that time that we were living the American dream, living an extraordinary life, to literally pretty much being homeless. And so I had to go back to work to provide for our family because my husband was so sick. So I was working 80 hours a week, and then I'd come home, take care of my sick husband, take care of my twins. I was burning the candle at both ends, and I was like, this isn't it. This is not it. And so I learned that the average millionaire has 7 streams of passive income. And that was a big thing because we had gone from one very healthy stream literally to nothing, but we didn't have 7, and passive. That was the other piece. So I was like, I got to figure this out. Fast forward, I started investing. So I started out doing buy and hold. Turns out that I don't like tenants and toilets. And then I did wholesaling. It wasn't enough cash flow. And then I started running a program here in Arizona called the Flipping Females. I partnered with women, teaching them how to fix and flip and invest in properties. And so we flipped about 500 properties here in Arizona. And then I learned about, the most secure position to be in any transaction really is being the bank. So I was like, how do you be the bank? So I started a hedge fund. It's how you be the bank. Then we went on, we were doing vacation rentals in there. Turns out I don't like guests and toilets either. But I tried all the things, and I want people to get that. Try all the things. Like, don't pigeonhole yourself. So in 2018, my husband died very tragically and unexpectedly, leaving me a widow and a single mom overnight. So with 14-year-old twins. But at that point, I had created 13 streams of passive income for my family. And it was because of that it allowed me to take a year off and to grieve with my twins and do all the therapy and figure out what we were going to do next. And it was during that time that I really got clear on a couple things. Chasing money isn't it. Moving forward, no matter what I did, I got really clear on my why is that I needed to leave every person, property, and community better than I found them. And that's how my company was born, Titan Impact Group. And that's what we do. So in Titan Impact Group, I focus on 2 things because I tried all the different things, right? But at the end of the day, I landed on 2 things. I like to be the bank, and I like to rent dirt. Those are my things. All of my investments, I do that, and we currently have a portfolio. And the biggest thing I want people to understand, it's like you need to make sure that you diversify your portfolio into different asset classes, right? Because and that was a big thing. When people are all in one asset class and that asset class tanks, you're in trouble. You may have multiple streams of income in that asset class, but that's a problem. So it's like we have a debt validation fund, and that specifically helps first responders and their families get out of debt, stay out of debt, financial literacy, all that, and pays out our investors very, very well with that. And so that's a way to be the bank. Then we have mobile home parks, and that's affordable housing, which again, I love that because whether we're in an up economy or down economy, we're always going to need affordable housing. Again, paying our investors out about that. And people, those have got, some weird stigma, but when you understand, like when I understood, okay, wait, I could own 100% of one door or I could own 1% of hundreds of doors. Like if that one door, that person moves out, I feel 100% of that pain. But if I'm 1% owner in hundreds, a couple people move out, I don't even feel the pain. So it's starting to understand and think about that and the scalability of it. So as a mom and a woman, like it was bringing stability to my cash flow and what I was doing. I needed that for me and my kids. And then of course we do triple net lease, commercial medical office space. And then for tax mitigation, the whole gas and oil. So it's like creating all of this together. And to be clear, inside of this, it's like how people keep asking how I did this. First of all, you need to understand I didn't start 13 different companies. And even now I don't have, yes, I have multiple companies. However, the way it's structured is that I create extraordinary partnerships with people who are really good at who know how to do the thing. And I talk about that. Gib, I'm sure you've talked about it. Like this book, Who Not How, especially for women, like we've already mastered. Think about it. When our kids need to be educated, we go find who already knows how to educate them. If our kids are sick, we go find who already knows how to get them better. Same with investing. Go find who already knows how to do the thing, plug into it, and get the benefits of it. That's how you grow exponentially your portfolio and your passive streams of income. That's all I've done. So I'm the who for people who want passive streams of income by renting dirt or being the bank. You're the who for people who want to create passive streams of income through all the different investments that you're doing. So when people start to think better, when you ask better questions, and the question is, who do I know that already knows how to do that? We ask better questions, we get better answers. So what that all leads into is that I'm really clear, money is like oxygen. The more we have, the easier it is to breathe. And the more we have and the easier we can breathe, the bigger the difference in the world we can make. And I feel I feel very strongly about this, that if you can add commas to your bank account, you must, because there's going to come a time where you're called to make an impact. So what I'm here for, I created 2 nonprofits. So I've got one nonprofit that focuses on, it's called Wealthwise Women. And we teach women how to lean in, engage, and really start creating passive streams of income for their families. And women statistically actually make better investors than men. Like I always say that men are like waffles and women are like spaghetti. All the things touch all the things. And when women get like SRA, same rules apply, right? All the skills that it takes for women to be really great moms and wives, it's the exact same skill set to be a great investor, because we think about all the things. So when you get that, you're like, oh my gosh, like you can translate all those skill sets over. So that's Wealthwise Women. And then the other one, that this is the bigger one for me, it's called Bell Community Empowerment Foundation. And here's what it is, Gib. There's over 500,000 children in the U.S. foster care system right now. Over 350,000 are available for adoption today. And it costs anywhere from $1,000 to $2,500 to adopt a child, depending on what state you're in. Now, people don't know this. And so this is what my nonprofit is out to like really educate people on, is that right now it's costing taxpayers billions of dollars to keep these kids in foster care. And if they haven't been adopted by their 18th birthday, they experience Black Trash Bag Day. That means on their 18th birthday, they're handed a black trash bag. They're told to put all their belongings in it, and then they're out and they're homeless. 70% of the people who are homeless came out of foster care. Homeless, drugs, prostitution, being trafficked, which is another epidemic, and now being incarcerated, costing taxpayers billions more on the back end. Here's the solution. There is a solution. Right now, there's 2.1 million families looking to adopt, but they don't know about this type of adoption. And there's more than 350,000 congregations in this country who are all called to take care of widows and orphans. So what if each church found one family to adopt one child? We could get this done in our lifetime. But bigger than that, what if 1% of those 350,000 children, that'd be 3,500 kids that grow up to be 3,500 adults, just because they were loved, they decide, I'm going to go make a difference in the world, just like I did from being loved and adopted. Like, that's what I'm called for. And you never know when you're going to be called. This is the power of why we need to add as many commas to our bank accounts so we can make that impact, because we never know when we're going to be called for that. So what happened was one of my partners lives in Asheville. I live in Arizona. Like I'm over in the desert. And North Carolina, it's highly unusual for them to actually be hit by a hurricane, but you guys were, just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, the western part of the state very rarely would get hit by a hurricane. The eastern part of the state, we get hit by hurricanes more frequently, right? Being on the water, but yeah, what happened with Helene in Asheville was really unprecedented.
So, our friend, yours and my mutual friend, Bryce, and Zach and all them, they all live in Asheville. And so I was like, oh my gosh, like, how are they? Are they okay? So I'm texting, like calling, not getting answers. So finally a message comes through, that he's okay. My next question was, how can I help? Like, seriously, like, a woman in Arizona, like, really, what can she do? I'm like, I don't know, but I'm still going to ask. And his messages were intermittent, getting back and forth. So I hadn't heard from him from quite a while. It's Thursday morning. It hit Saturday. It's Thursday morning. On with Wealthwise Women. We're going through, doing all the nonprofit stuff, figuring out how we're going to continue to serve this community, doing all this. And all of a sudden, a message comes in from Bryce. A text message gets through. And he says that he's okay, but what they need is they need food, water, fuel, and body bags. Out of all the things to say you need, I'm like, my heart, oh. So I was like, ladies, stop. I just stopped the whole call. I said, stop what you're doing right now. And I read the message, and one of his friends, Chris Larson, created a GoFundMe. And I know Chris, so I knew all the money was absolutely going to go to those families in that community. And they're like, please, we need help. So I said to the ladies, I said, listen, we need to send this message out to anybody we can. We don't know who knows who, but let's do this and let's see what we can make happen. The women sent it out all through all their social media, their newsletters, texts, everything. We just sent all these messages out. Within 24 hours, over $40,000 had been funded. Within 48, $100,000 had been funded. And in that same period of time, somebody reached out to somebody, and she was friends with, or best friends with, I think it's the president of, I want to say it's the Cajun Navy helicopter. Anyway, extraordinary. They were a big, big part of Katrina and helping all of that. Anyways, next thing we know, all these communications are happening. And it wasn't the government. The government still hadn't stepped in and helped this community. It was private citizens that all brought the money, brought the food, the water, the fuel, the helicopters, and literally within 96 hours, over 200 families have been saved. If you think about that, that's about 1,000 people. And all because of community, and all because everybody had done the right thing, living the American dream, doing their thing, adding commas to their bank account. But all of a sudden now is the time, because they had those commas, they had the freedom and the ability to lean in and to help people that we will never know, that will never know us. And that's not why we did it. We did it because it was the right thing to do. And we were able to do it timely. There was no red tape. There was no asking permission. Like, we just did it. And sometimes that needs to happen, right? So anyway, I'm just extremely grateful for our community and all the relationships and connections we have.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, being able to be there for somebody that's, 2,000, 3,000 miles from you, that really just speaks, to the power of the community. And honestly, to your character in actually helping him. A lot of people say when something bad happens, how can I help? But they're hoping and expecting the answer to be, well, there's nothing you can do, but you were coming to him with like a pure heart saying, hey, what can I do to help? And then you actually took action. And I think you talked about how when we accumulate wealth and put another zero on our bank account or add another decimal, we now have the ability to help more people. And I think so many people might look at us from the outside looking in like, oh my goodness, these folks are all focused on investing and finances, and they just want to become rich, right? And they just want to flaunt their money and have, all these luxuries.
We do want to become rich, but not to flaunt, to make an impact.
Exactly. It's a different mindset, and it's one of coming from a place of trying to help others. And that is a totally different thing than, hey, Gib just wants to have, a Gulf Stream. And I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with having that kind of stuff, but that's not the primary motivation behind what we're doing, So, Catherine, let's go back a little bit. I want to ask you a question about your story because I've heard you speak from stage numerous times. I mean, how long have you been doing public speaking like that? I would assume you've done it for a very long time. This episode of Go Big with Gib is brought to you by Irons Equity. At Irons Equity, we specialize in helping investors like you create long-term generational wealth and save money on taxes through recession-resistant real estate investments that create passive income for you and your family. If you want to secure your financial future, go to investwithgib.com to schedule a 30-minute introductory meeting with me, Gib Irons. Again, that's investwithgib.com.
Okay, so get this. It literally was 2 years ago to this weekend that Hunter and I first met and had our interaction. And what happened was it was in Miami. And so it was the second day of his Race Fest. And
it was the retreat, right? The Raise
it was the
Masters retreat in Miami.
Yeah. And so he kept saying, like, that your story matters and you need to share your story. And I was like, yeah, I disagree. So it's the second day and he asked the question, who in here disagrees with what I'm saying that your story matters? And I raised my hand. And that's when he gave me the mic and he's like, why do you disagree? And I had this whole conversation. It's his conference, but I'm disagreeing with him. And I just shared, like, I disagree. I've raised over $20 million. I did the flipping females. I did all that without my story. Like, I don't want to have anybody having a pity party over anything that's happened, So I'm like, I don't want to talk about that. Right? Let's talk about something that's happy. And so him and I had this whole interaction and he ended up asking questions, and literally in that interaction, what happened literally changed my life forever. And he had me share a tiny piece of my story. And I literally got a standing ovation at that in Miami. And I was like, what just happened? Like, it rocked me to the core. So I go home. And then he reaches out and asks me if I would come and speak in January in Louisville, Kentucky. It was the very first time, January 2023, that I ever shared my story publicly.
Okay, because I was there for that. That was
my very first time.
I was sitting on the front row, and I stepped out real quick and came back, and everybody was crying because you had made such a powerful impact. What would you say to the person that, is struggling with, they didn't have all the advantages growing up. They had a tough time, and they're feeling like, I can't accomplish anything because my life, the beginning of my life was so difficult.
Yeah. I totally can tell you. So here's the thing. I got clear, like, we can't control what happens to us, but we have 100% control of what we choose to do with it. And I always think, like, okay, this situation, am I going to have this situation use me, meaning I become victim to it? Or am I going to take this situation and am I going to use it? What does that take? It takes a whole lot of, like, dealing with what's going on in between our ears. What's going on in between our ears is the number one thing that'll make us or break us. It has nothing to do with what's out here. And so doing that work is a critical piece to everything that I do. And everybody knows, anybody who's spent any time with me, like, I'll do two things, Gib, and you've already said it. I'll make you cry and I'll give you homework. So here's one thing, this exercise. So as a kid, here's the thing. When you go in and out of more homes than you can possibly count, part of the gift is you actually get to see not all families live the same. They all have a different rhythm. They all have different beliefs. They all have different values. So I got to see all of this and I was really fascinated. And I was fascinated, like, success leaves clues. And I always look for patterns, right? And so when you see those patterns, you can go, wait a sec. If they're doing this, this, and this and having this outcome, if I do this, this, and this, I should have a similar outcome, right? And so one of the things, I have a lot of friends who are multimillionaires, a couple of friends who are billionaires, and I've asked them all this question. What is it that you do that has you be successful? This right here that I'm about to share with you is the one thing they've all done consistently and still do. So I'm like, well, I should do that.
Awesome.
And
yeah.
Here's the homework, everyone.
Let's hear it.
It's a little teeny tiny book that was wrote back in the early 1900s. And then we'll talk about the Constitution because it's all a part of this. So this little teeny tiny book, here's the homework of the book. And I'll tell you the homework and then I'll tell you the book. So the homework is to read the book once all the way through. And it takes about 2 hours. It's so teeny tiny. Then for the next 90 days, you read chapters 4, 7, 11, and 14 every day for 90 days. If you miss a day, you have to start all over again. So this is powerful. When you do this, I promise you at the end of that 90 days, what's going on in between your ears will never be the same again. So here's the book. Are you ready?
We're ready. The Science of Getting Rich.
The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles. So again, if success leaves clues, like if you're seriously interested in making a difference, and like, again, the more commas you have, the bigger the impact you can make. This is a book. I also have another book on my website, but again, success leaves clues, right? So do it. And if it doesn't make a difference, great. Call me and tell me I'm a liar. I'd be interested in hearing that conversation.
I love that. I mean, that's something that we all need to go check out. Definitely. So you read the book once. You said it's a relatively short read. I'm a slow reader, so if it took you 2 hours, it'd probably take me 4.
No. Hold on. I'm a super slow reader. You have to remember, I didn't learn to read till I was in the 8th grade. So I'm also an auditory learner. So I learned very quickly. I listen to this on Audible. And I listen to it while I'm getting ready in the morning. So it's 20 minutes to get through 4 chapters. So that's one thing. The other thing, it's called Paraliminals. It's a form of meditation, and there's an app. And anyway, basically what it is, you put headphones in, and one side is saying one thing and one side is saying another. And it literally, one side's distracting your conscious mind while the other side programs your unconscious mind, because it's our unconscious mind that actually is running us. And so there's a paraliminal called Talking to Win, and that's what literally had me crush it during that speech. Because I was one of those people that I would rather die than go in public speak. And Gib, you know what happened? Like, I was literally on the same stage as Jesse Itzler, Neil Bawa, like big names. I was the only one that got a standing ovation.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Yeah, we had Jesse Itzler on the same stage, and you had the audience like mesmerized. I mean, they were really genuinely absorbing the emotions of your story and going through. They were living through those events with you. And I mean, all of those folks were fantastic speakers. But yes, you did such an amazing job. So this exercise, you said it's Paraliminals.
It's called Paraliminals. You can put by Paul Sheely. You can buy the CDs, or there's an app that you can get. I have the app on my phone, so I have it with me all the time. And there's like dozens and dozens and dozens. And when you go, it's all about health, well-being, wealth, like all of the things. And again, when we can program our unconscious mind, that's the power. Like, what's going on here is going to make us or break us. So it is our responsibility to deal with what's going on here, right? It's not our parents. It's not societies. It's not teachers. It's not the government. It is our responsibility to manage that and to do everything we can to deal with that. I mean, we all know, we've all heard of the Napoleon Hill, think and grow rich, right?
Yep.
Not wish, not manifest, not meditate, think and grow rich. But if you don't have accurate thinking, you're never going to get there, right? So you got to have accurate thinking. And Gib, here's the thing, like when you were, you're an attorney. And inside of that, what did it take for you to be an attorney? It took for you to go to school and learn it and become a brilliant attorney. It's the same thing with doing everything that we're doing with investing. It literally is, you can learn this. It's not like you and I popped into the world with all this magical knowledge. You and I went and learned. So anybody can go and learn. So speaking of learning, you and I were in New York a couple weeks ago, and it was really cool at One World Trade Center. Like, holy Moses, that was amazing. And we were at an event, but at the same time, what had happened was we have a private museum here in our home, which we have people, which, by the way, you inspired me. I did my very first investor dinner giving a tour of our museum. And so one of my KPIs, Gib, is how many times they said, wow. We blew their minds. It was so awesome. So we have an original Declaration of Independence. We have Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech. We have General Orders Number 9, which is the letter that Robert E. Lee wrote that ended the Civil War. We have so many. It takes about 12 hours to tour. But here's what's cool. Our document dealer, who's a good friend of ours, it was a couple months ago. What happened was they found the oldest constitution, and it was actually in North Carolina, which is really fascinating. It was in a home that was originally owned by a governor back in the 1800s. And from that, which was really interesting, was the home had been passed down by 7 generations, and eventually the home was donated to the state as a historical property. Well, the family had to go through all the stuff, because when you have it's been in the same family for 1800s, there's a lot of stuff in that home. They end up opening up a file cabinet, and they open up, there is an original constitution, a ratified signature constitution. So what was cool was my friends Seth and Steve ended up coming and bringing it for all of us to see and experience, and we all got pictures with it and all of that. So what ended up happening after that, that was that day. The very next day, it was Constitution Day. So we took it to the federal courthouse in New York for all the federal judges to see. So just being there with all those judges, it was amazing. So then we were there for like pretty much from like really early in the morning till really late at night. I end up having like there's Secret Service, there's US Marshals, like everybody's there protecting that, protecting us. It was a very bizarre experience. I end up becoming like friends with the head US Marshal, and him and I are talking because we're there for literally all day and all night, just talking about all the things. And it turns out Ruth Bader Ginsburg had an office there. And so him and I are talking, and it turns out him and her became really, really good friends. And they would play chess they would play chess all the time. And he's this giant black man who's amazing. And she's this little white woman, like 4 foot nothing. And she would kick his butt and laugh at him all the time. She never let him win. So he talked about that. But because they became such good friends, he would carry a spare pair of glasses with him all the time for her because she'd forget them everywhere. Anyway, so we're talking about this, and I'm just talking about how much I deeply admire and respect her and everything. He disappears, and he comes back, and he says, I have something to show you. And so then it was insane. Pulls out of his pocket her glasses. And he lets me see them and hold them and then try them on. Turns out that they're my same prescription. Anyway, so then he's like, because you love her so much, he gave me her glasses.
Oh, wow.
I mean, who does that?
How cool is that?
Ruth Bader Ginsburg's glasses. Like, how crazy, right?
Oh, they look good on you too. I like that.
Thank you. So then Steve goes back a week later or whatever. Anyways, he sends home with me. A couple months prior to that, we had actually acquired her entire personal library, but there were a couple things we didn't get. So he gave this to me. This is her favorite book. Anytime anybody would come to New York, she'd open this up and she'd literally walk through all the different architectural buildings and stuff they need to go see in New York and all the history behind it. So I literally feel like I get to see New York through Ruth Bader Ginsburg's lenses.
Unbelievable.
How cool is that? Right?
What an awesome experience. And I mean,
so it gets better. It gets better. It gets better. So because the Constitution was literally supposed to be auctioned off the Saturday that the hurricane hit in North Carolina, in Asheville. Clearly that didn't happen. It got postponed. But now I'm flying on Wednesday because I get to be there. It's going to be auctioned off on Thursday, and I get to be a part of that whole experience of the Constitution. We were there in Sotheby's a couple years ago when the second oldest one got sold, and that was sold to Ken Griffin of Citadel Group, and he bought it for $43.2 million. So they're estimating this one's about $50 million. So I get to go be a part of all of history. I mean, how cool is that?
That is phenomenal. I mean, and it's super cool to me too that the document was intended for North Carolina and was found here. With me being a North Carolinian and loving history like I do, I just found that to be so fascinating. And I get confused about how many original constitutions there were because, and each state got a got one original, right?
No, they got 2 that were actually signed.
2 signed originals for each state.
Yes. And so this is one of those copies for North Carolina. The oldest one we found.
How many states were there at the time? Was there 13 states?
Yeah, when it was sent out.
Yeah, what an amazing piece of history. And yeah, I did get the opportunity to hold it. And I got my picture taken with Seth and the Constitution. And what a fun experience. And what a cool thing to bring with you. I mean, who knows what it'll sell for too. So will the sale occur in Asheville even,
Yep.
Despite all everything that they've been through there?
Well, it's an online auction. So everybody can go check it out. It's Brunk Auction House. It's going to happen at 6 p.m. on Thursday. So just Google
Okay.
it. Look up Brunk Auction House, 6 p.m. Thursday. We can all watch it happening online and see what it goes for.
Yeah.
Like,
So, where did your love for history come into play? You talked to me about how there's a lot of really important, historical documents and artifacts that have been passed down from generation to generation, normally in wealthy families. Typically, they're privately owned documents. They're not all in museums.
even the ones that are in museums are from wealthy families.
Right. They were donated.
Museums do not own them. They're usually on loan because museums are nonprofit. They don't have the funding to go buy these really expensive documents. It's up to the wealthy to preserve history. If you go, it'll see donated by or on loan by, whatever family. That's who owns it.
And how did you get into that?
So I love the psychology of like how do people function? Like how do they make their decisions? What things had to occur to lead to this actually happening? Like I look for patterns. I love all of that. So that's the piece of history. But my fiance, Steve, he's always wanted to be a history teacher or a constitutional attorney. When he discovered what both of them were, he's not interested. So it was through when him and I actually started dating, and he just had this love. I was like, and he's a brilliant storyteller. So I was like, people have got to see this and got to experience this. That's how we ultimately ended up creating our literally wow factor museum. Like it blows people's mind. People who love history are like, love it even more after, and people who don't even care about history love history after because of the stories. And we tell the stories that aren't being told in the textbooks. All the stories, like we did a tour, literally it was for a group of women who were all investors, and it was all about the women in history who made an impact on this country. And there's a lot. And so we customize and create tours, but tell all the amazing fun stories that just never get taught. And so that's just been a fun thing that we do. And then when you shared about doing the dinners, I was like, so you inspired us to go and give these amazing tours and dinners. And it's a whole amazing experience. I don't want to give it away, but it's pretty cool for, when we have those and have people over for those. Gib, you're going to have to come.
I would love to. I would absolutely love to. So Catherine, for people that have listened to the show today and that want to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
So you can go to LinkedIn or my website, titanimpactgroup.com. Those are probably the easiest ways to get a hold of me.
Awesome. Well, look, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I've loved hearing your stories. You are such an inspiration and such a powerful person. I mean, gosh, I'm so proud of you and everything that you've done and just so grateful to be a friend. So thank you so much for coming on the show, Catherine. It was a pleasure.
Well, Gib, you're amazing. I love you. Thank you for having me come on and for inspiring me. So thank you. I love this.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Go Big with Gib. If you haven't already, go follow us on social media at Gib Irons. We'll see you next time.